What's it like in a primary where the expectations are very high for you?
We're feeling good because we have many thousands of volunteers in this state who have knocked on hundreds of thousands of doors. And I believe the way you win, especially in smaller states like New Hampshire and Iowa, we got knocking on doors, making the phone calls, person-to-person contact. And we've done that here in the state. So I hope there's a good turnout. And with a little bit of luck, we'll do well.
The Mike Bloomberg factor. He's not on the ballot here, but he's spending a lot of money here. And
you think so?
Yeah, just a little bit of money.
Just a little bit.
And a lot of people are talking about the Bloomberg factor. Tell me what you're thinking.
This is what I think. I mean, Mike Bloomberg and anybody else has every right in the world to run for president of the United States. But I got a real problem with multi-billionaires literally buying elections. And his view is, hey, I'm worth $60 billion. I can spend hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars on TV ads. Hey, vote for me, make me president. That is exactly the problem with American politics.
Do you begrudge his wealth?
I don't begrudge his wealth, but I do begrudge a billionaire thinking he can buy the election.
There's been a lot of talk about disunity because of the sniping back and forth between you and Buttigieg and Biden. Is party unity your concern right now, or is simply winning as many states as you can?
Well, it's both. But I think at the end of the day, I think virtually all Democrats and a heck of a lot of independents understand that it is absolutely imperative we defeat the most dangerous president in the modern history of this country. Somebody who's not only a pathological liar, somebody who's running a corrupt administration, but somebody, frankly, who is a racist, a sexist, a homophobe, a xenophobe, a religious bigot.
Talk to those voters who voted for Donald Trump and who may be right now looking for an excuse not to vote for him. They hear the word socialist, they hear the word revolution, and it scares them a little bit. What do you say to them?
In 2016, Trump ran as a friend of the working families of this country. He lied. So what I would say to those people, many of them are hurting. Many of them are working longer hours for low wages. Many of them have seen their jobs go to China or Mexico. Check my record. I have a lifetime of service and fighting for the working class of this country.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.